Hi, it's me, Ingrid INFP, and I'm in a clearing in the forest again. And I don't know if it's raining or if it's sunny. It just keeps going on and off. According to the weather, it is sunny, which it is for now 2 seconds, but soon it will get cloudy again. Anyway, my throat hurts, and I think I got COVID. I hope I got it from the airplane and not from not from my family. It seems like my brother also has a throat ache, so maybe. I hope that my grandfather did not get COVID, because he's vulnerable, and neither are my parents either. But it seems like maybe I got contaminated before my travels. Also, I went on a Flixbus, and there was a guy who was completely drunk, and he just kept drinking vodka the whole trip, and he started falling all over the place and throwing up, and I hope I did not get COVID from this guy. I mean, ugh. I was actually kind of feeling scared of this guy because he would sometimes randomly stand up in the aisle in the bus, and since he wasn't keeping his balance, I was afraid that he was going to land on me. Anyway, so my throat hurts. I was supposed to meet my ISFJ friend, my best friend, but I don't want to contaminate him, so I'm instead going in the forest, and I'm planning to go to the grocery store, and that will be my day, basically. I had wished that I could spend the rest of my holiday having a little bit more fun, but unfortunately not. I had some blueberries in the forest, but it's kind of like the end of the blueberries. Right now it's lingonberries that are the thing. I wanted to talk about my ponderings, my experiences of traveling, memories and traveling, revisiting old memories, being in that kind of headspace, and how that relates to INFP. Because I do think that this is an INFP thing. But sure, other types can do it too, but I think that INFPs are really affected by their memories and the emotions that are triggered by their memories. And I think that somehow it can be easy to get into an FI-SI loop when you're traveling if you don't use enough NE, And I think that while I was in Scotland, I was doing a lot of NE because I was like learning new things, thinking about different things and all that. But when I was traveling back to my hometown and I was with my family, I kind of got into these memories of my past that, maybe wasn't like making me advance in any way. So it's kind of a different state of mind that I have to get into when I get to my childhood home. Especially considering that it's a hoarder house with a lot of sentimental objects, and I kind of become passive in that environment. I kind of like make my parents do all the decisions and all that, and I feel frustrated, but I kind of revert back to my teenage self, I guess. And it's not good, but it's kind of the only way that I can defend myself, like I can survive in there. Because if I were to be my regular, more explorative, fun self, then I wouldn't be able to manage, And so I have to shift between different selves and different states of being, different perspectives. And I think that is something that INFPs do quite often, actually. We can be many different people. We're very paradoxical in several ways, and I can be many different people, and that's so I've never been to Scotland, and I've only been in the UK to go to London once. So it was a completely new environment, and yet I was thinking of the past and also about the future, and I think that sensor types are way more actually experiencing in the moment. And that is kind of the definition of a sensor, right? But I don't think it's completely wrong to not experience the moment, because you are also experiencing in a way. You're experiencing your thoughts. Now, I try always to not focus on what's actually going on and the places that I'm visiting. But the way I experience them will be different than a sensor, I guess. I know that my dad, who's an ISTJ, uses SI, and he's really into knowing all the history behind the monuments that he's looking at, and knowing all the dates, and experiencing the things that the traveler list should be. Okay, he goes to all of these. He writes a list, and then he goes it, and he feels productive. I think that's the TE part of him. He feels productive when he's done a lot of things during his holiday, and I get that to a certain extent, but I when I go to the places, it's not like I'm experiencing the place. Maybe SC users will be more experiencing, oh wow, this tower is really high. Oh, look out how beautiful the painting is, Instead, I'll be always going back as an NF, thinking about the meaning of things, the meaning of life and humanity. And I'll always be going back to that. And sometimes to a degree where it's kind of ridiculous. I'll be like, oh wow, this flower is a Scottish flower, It's not like a regular Swedish flower. It's and I was looking a lot into symbolism, because I was thinking of all the thistle symbolism and the unicorns and that was in Scotland, and I would get so super excited just seeing a thistle, and I'd be thinking about all of those Scots who had been proud of their thistle, and imagining myself if I were a Scottish person in the past, or if I were a Highlander. I would ponder, oh, what if I were a prisoner in this castle, or what if I knew Mary, Queen of Scots, and how terrible that would be. And so I kind of immerse myself in a different way by creating the story around it, instead of actually being there and touching the stone. Or I'd be touching the stone to prompt me into a daydream, I'd be oh, imagine if this hand touching the stone had my ruby ring from marrying this old baron, and I were this medieval lady in this castle, and it's kind of like imagining you're a princess, but the adult version of it, I guess. So I would pretend I'm all these different people, and that I am Ingrid still, but that I am living all these different lives. And that's why I find the history kind of interesting, but it's not because I want to know the facts. It's more I want to be able to immerse myself in this daydream I have of this place, instead of actually being in the place. So even if I'm trying to use, my SC, which is basically non-existent. I do notice that a lot when that my SE is lacking, that I go up these towers and I'm like scared of the heights, and I'm like, going very slowly up all these, because I went to these castles that had like these towers, and I am a little bit clumsy, so I was really scared of like losing my phone into the void, and like losing my phone in the middle of the loch, and I was but so the only thing that ties me to the sensory world as an INFP is SI, and so I'll go to the memories, and these feeling, these sensations, and I'll be like, oh, this view reminds me of this view, and oh, this building reminds me of this building, and it reminds me of this story. And so I'll go through all of this SI, any kind of loop of stuff, ideas, ponderings going around in my head, and I'm creating memories through that. So it's like kind of it kind of cheapens the experience, I guess, but it really doesn't. Like it should cheapen the experience, that you're creating a memory over a memory or something. But actually that's kind of how I live my life. I live my life through these perceptions, I guess, and through thinking of everything in terms of stories and meaning and interpretations. And so this is what I live for. This is what I live for. And I guess, other people would travel differently. I guess that maybe I should have, if I were an SE dominant or something, I would maybe go for like the best meal that you could get, like the most gourmet meal. Or if I were an SI user, I would maybe go and see all of the common attractions. My dad was really disappointed somehow in me that I didn't go to Edinburgh Castle, because that is kind of like the thing that you're supposed to see when you're in Edinburgh. But I've had enough of castles, so that's not that sad for me. SE users, I think, would also really appreciate the hike up to the mountain of Arthur's Seat. Well, for me, it was kind of like I had to put myself into a character to be able to go up the mountain. I don't know if this is like unhealthy, but it kind of makes things more exciting when you pretend to be an adventurer or something. And I also appreciated all of the physical things along the way, like the wind and the Scottish nature and everything. But it's kind of like I'm romanticizing it while I'm doing it, I'm like, oh, so many people before me have gone on this mountain, and now I'm doing it, and this is so significant for like the humanity of people going up this mountain, and how should we view this? Is this like a feat? And then I think about the fact that it's an old volcano, and I start going onto all of these tangents, when really, it's just a mountain. But I think of since Holyrood Castle is close by to Arthur's Seat, they must have did they go up the mountain as well? Did they dare to get their clothes dirty? Or did they think that it was scary to go up the mountain? I would think of all these scenarios. Anyway, so I think about a lot of scenarios when I go to new places, but also to old places as well. It's just that, because when I go to my hometown, it's more like I go through the motions, and I'm operating on SI primarily, and I'm I can navigate my parents' hoarder house with my eyes closed. it only gets worse with time, things accumulate, but you kind of have to creep your way around different piles of things. And I'm kind of like, I don't need my my five senses to navigate the area, I kind of know. This is the same with my town. I'm like, oh, I'm going through this, I'm walking the same way that I've walked like thousands of times. But I think that INFPs also have this thing where we imbue certain places with meaning. And I definitely do that a lot. Even like on my commute to work, I usually feel the same emotions at a certain point of my trip. Just on my 15-minute walk to work, I always think like of sad things like right before I get to this bridge, and I always think like of planning for the future when I'm at this area of the trip. I started to notice this. It's not like I do it consciously, it's just like this is kind of how my free-flowing thoughts is going. But I have these thoughts of certain areas I kind of have to overwrite them with new memories, if the memories are dark, because otherwise I will always associate this place with these certain feelings from this certain memory, if it's a pretty big memory, So, going through my hometown, I've basically done the same route so many times that I've been able to rewrite it so it's not like physically painful every time I go there. But if I go to a place once and I have never returned and it was a bad thing that happened there, then I will have a hard time. Now they've redone the airport in Stockholm, and that kind of was a change in my routine, I guess, and it kind of like made me rethink things. But on my way to the airport, I went on a Flixbus, which is usually not my way of going. Usually I take another bus, and basically I passed by this forest. And the town where my ex-INFJ friend used to live, or he still lives, I guess. And I started feeling nostalgia for all of those times where we were together. Because forests, it was maybe not the exact same forest that I went with my friend with, but they kind of looked similar, I guess. And I started feeling kind of awful. And I was like, oh my god, I've only done like 1% of my trip. It's not the time to get emotional now. But certain areas will always feel associated with a certain person, a certain memory. And so I try to tone those memories down and try to rewrite it with other memories. I also, because of my synesthesia, sometimes associate places with colors, and sometimes places will be tinged with the color of the person that I think about. And yeah, that's maybe just a me thing, but I kind of have to imagine it like filming over old film or that kind of thing, or like putting a blanket over it or something, of like a new memory to like rewrite over it. I realize making this video, that's not easy being me, because like I just get assaulted by emotions all the time. It's gotten better with time, but when I was a teenager it was definitely not easy. When I was in Scotland, I kept getting memories of like, oh, these certain people that I knew when I was a child and who were Scottish. And, I started thinking about certain things also because I was visiting my family and friends, and looking through old photos, which definitely gets me into an FI/SI loop, thinking about past versions of me. But there are certain things that really make my SI happy, I guess, that I got to do, such as eating my French bread. It's kind of like, it's become a traditional ritual that I do every time. Like, oh, I eat my cheese. I eat the Beaufort cheese, which is my favorite kind of cheese, and I eat my bread, which is great, and then I will watch French TV, and then I'll look at these presenters that are suddenly like 10 years older than I'm used to them, because it's been 10 years. And I'm like, well, they're old, and then they'll have new people, and I'll be like, who are these people? And so I get kind of this weird sense of dissonance, but I do get a lot of satisfaction and feeding into my nostalgia. So there's that kind of travel too. So I would say that there are like the two kinds of travels. There's a kind of travel to like a new place, and then there's a travel to see family or friends, I am glad I got to meet Sick in Lyon so that I could like have good memories of that place. And for me, speaking French is awkward because it kind of puts me back into this headspace of me being a teenager or a child, and I was different, my relationships with people were different then, and so I spoke French with Sick, which was also different because we usually write in English, because I have a hard time writing in French, because it puts me back into school mode, when I was going in school and I was speaking French with people, and now it's like I'm not at school anymore. So I become many different people when I travel, and it's part of the appeal, I guess, for me as an INFP. I think that's kind of what we live for, is trying to forge our own identity. And so growing up and going back to a place where I was as a child is an interesting experience, And I think that INFPs ponder about the past and the future and the story of our lives a lot compared to other types, and that's where traveling and living in a different country is enriching to me. I think, though, that I've done enough of the SI nostalgia introverting, and I'd rather now do more, solo trips or trips to new places, doing new things, because I'm at that stage of my life right now. I'm at the stage where I want to. I've been in hibernation for so long, and I'm trying to grow. I want to do new things. Of course, I don't want to forget all my old friends, but I also want to make new connections and see what life has to offer. And I can't really do that at my job, which is a very small, limited group of people. I am very much controlled by fear of different things, and I want the security that comes with the stability that I have created for myself, and I don't want to lose that. But at the same time, I do feel like I need to take the opportunities that are given to me and go and experience more. And by experiencing more, I don't mean that I need to transform into a sensor or into an any dominant person or an extrovert, you know. I don't need to change myself. I just need to transform the different me's that are inside me. And the only way to do that is by trying new things. It's by actively going out there and doing things. I feel like when I go back to my hometown, I become very passive, and I don't want to be that person anymore who gets stepped on and who gets, you know, overwhelmed by life, you know, because I am very overwhelmed by a lot of things, but I can be sensitive and I can have trouble coping with the world, and at the same time live a fulfilling life by just trying to get out and try new things that are fun. It doesn't need to be that far outside of my comfort zone. And so yeah, I think that a lot of people will be like, you know, well, why didn't you try this and this and this, you know? And why didn't you experience this? It's like, I haven't experienced a lot of the world physically, but I have experienced worlds inside. But in order to feed those worlds, I need to do things physically so that I can have that rich inner world. I can't create from nothing. I need to have something to, like a launch pad, to launch me forward. You know, if you never go to new places, then you'll never, or you never do new things, or never try anything different, like listening to a different kind of music or whatever, and then you're stuck, you know. And so I try to move myself forward in the INFP way, you know. We are, after all, you know, pretty explorative, pretty curious people, I think, as INFPs. I think that we have a little bit of an adventurous streak. And the way that we experience the world might be different than other people. The way that we travel might be different. I mean, I went on an Outlander tour, which is very much an intuitive thing to do. Like, sensors, you know, they want to experience things. I mean, I guess that some people went on the Outlander tour to get the best Instagram pictures, but for me it was more like pretending that I was in this fandom, like in this story, and experiencing that story for myself, you know. So that was pretty INFP of me, I guess. And so yeah, the way that we travel might be different. Like, we might not have the typical experience of what's the certain things that you experience on your travel is. But I think that we appreciate travel a lot. I think that we appreciate going to new places. And that new place can just be a different forest. It could just be a different town, like the town just over from you. I think that we're very good at seeing the small things, seeing the beauty in different things, imagining different things, pondering different things, and we need to expand that library of like experiences and knowledge and stuff concretely, and in order to feed all of that conceptual meaning of humanity stuff. So yeah, I encourage anybody who can to travel. Like, I mean, I have a 9-to-5 job, so I kind of have to limit the amount of travel I can do. And I am extremely privileged to have the means to travel. But I think that just by leaving the house, you know, a lot of INFPs maybe don't leave the house, myself included. We don't leave the house enough. And I think that we don't need to overwhelm ourselves with sensory experiences to have a great time. But just doing something concretely in the world, you know, and it can be a lot of fun. Yeah, that's all I had to say on this topic. It's been a half hour now, and it might rain, might not. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.